Awesome. Well, thank you guys for taking the time to come and have these types of conversations with us, especially in between the craziest season and the craziest year ever. We really appreciate you taking this minute to actually work on your business versus just in your business. This is my favorite time of the year. Everybody who knows me is very knows that this is for sure my favorite time. And it's my favorite time, especially between the time of Christmas and New Year's. And the reason for it is for that, for the ability to take a breath, to plan out what's going to happen in the coming year, and really be diligent in what my goals are and what my next steps are. So when Jenny and I were talking about how are we going to run and manage all of the things and keep the sales team excited and engaged, this was one of my favorite conversations, so I readily volunteered. A couple of things that we're going to talk through about today is going to be focused on planning out your own calendar. And so there's going to be some tools and some things that you're going to want to have. And at the end, we're going to talk through a couple of resources. But as we get to the end, Jenny is going to be working with us on how do we use Slack and engage all of you in this additional conversation. Each one of you is very, very successful, and the opportunity to leverage the tools that you're already using and share it with the rest of the group is going to be vital for all of our success, especially into moving into 2021, which is so crazy to even say those words now, right? A few months ago, I was like, oh, when is this year ever going to be over with? So in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get started and start I'm clicking all the things on planning for our for 2021. So a couple of things that you're going to need. Number one is a planner. So we are in the promotional products industry. You guys have access to all the things, so no excuse. You can even go to Staples, don't say that word, and pick one up there. My favorite is from this woman that I happened upon through Instagram, and her name is Emily Lee. So I love that her planner, if you guys can see, it's got writing all over it. The reason why I like this planner is the layout that it has. It has it separated by day, to do, and then a notes section. But then what's also important is that it has the month to month, and you guys will see all of my, well, there's a lot of whiteout in my planner for my month to month, but it has the full month view as well. Now, get one that you're actually going to use. I know that this is a digital age. I know that we all have all the things and stuff in our calendars, in our planners, in all of the places. But at the end of the day, you need something hardcore to write down what is actually happening and to plan out your year. You're still going to transpose it into your electronic calendar, so don't freak out. But this is super important to get you started. Highlighters, stickers, all the things. Portia is my favorite go-to for all of the fun. She always has all these different erasable pens and the newest and the greatest in all of the colors. But really take some time to find what's going to be the best to highlight different areas of your life. The important thing to remember is this quote from Benjamin Franklin, which is, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Now, I know that no one could have anticipated what 2020 was going to look like, but I've got a really big news flash for you. We have no idea what 2021 is going to look like. There's going to be hurricanes, there's going to be floods, there's going to be fires. You're going to win RFPs, you're going to lose RFPs. You're going to win clients, you're going to lose clients. There's going to be social unrest happening all around us. There's going to be wars. We've got a new president. There's all sorts of things that are going to impact you. So if you're not taking this time right now in this period between Christmas and New Year's to really sink your teeth into what your next planned steps are, then you're doing yourself a disservice in what your future self and your future goals are going to be. So again, super excited to be here. Anybody can create a to-do list. It's how we actually plan out our years, what's going to really make the impact on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So let's get started. You've got your journal, you've got your planner, you've got your notebook, whatever the case may be. The first thing that I do when I get my brand new planner is I start with the easy stuff, which is personal. A couple of years ago, I realized that I wasn't spending as much time in my personal daily, nightly, weekly, monthly that I should have. I was missing time with my husband. I have two daughters that are growing up very, very fast. And I realized that I wasn't really marking off the date nights, the family time, the time with my friends, even just drinks with glasses of wine, or events that I wanted to go see. So start with putting on the calendar your birthdays and anniversaries. Very simple. It doesn't take a whole lot of brain power. But what's also important that I found out after I started doing this was I wasn't blocking off the corresponding weekends. So yeah, I'd have my kid's birthday, but then I would be traveling and I would miss time to have the birthday party. So then we were always scrambling for, okay, when are we going to plan the birthday party or whatever that special time is. So go ahead and take the effort to, if you know that you have normal get-togethers, to block off that weekend, because that will help you as we go further. Block off the date nights and the supper clubs and the kiddo and family time. My husband and I, we alternate with each of our daughters, and it's just once a month because we're always doing other things throughout the week, but it gives us that special one-on-one time for them and then for each other on a monthly basis. And then supper time, supper club, we do that with our friends. So it just helps to have it on the calendar, because then it's not something where you're scrambling again. The next thing that I do is I put in catch-up days. So these are days of the week where I close myself completely off. Now, I know in this COVID world, many of you are working from home or have different scenarios of blocking yourself off, but really take this as your day that you're just focusing on doing all the things that you haven't done. For me personally, it sometimes ends up being on the weekends, not gonna lie. But having this time where no one can interrupt me and I can focus on following up on emails or handling quotes or doing those reports that nobody ever wants to do, those days, and I go ahead and mark them on my calendar so that I don't overschedule myself. Next, consider your workout plan if that's a big part of your life. For me, I have to schedule it in as a daily reminder. It's something that I need to do. And then from there, take a look at what your educational plan is for the year. PPAI offered this great opportunity for everyone in our industry to have a free CAS, MAS, TAS. So if you didn't take advantage of it, make an effort to do so this year. Now, it may not be free. I think that period ended, but it's a good opportunity for you to hone up on your own skills. And whether it's not, even if it's not for industry. So for example, one of the things that I do is I take several leadership classes throughout the year. Many of them are offered free, or they have special online training that is free right now. So I go ahead and schedule some of those in as well. And then if there's a skill that you need to learn, so for example, social media, or if you want to learn how to do videos or leverage some of the new technology that's out there, go ahead and get that on your calendar and have that scheduled out, because otherwise, if you don't, you will not do it. One of the other things that I do on a monthly basis is I pick a book of the month. And so one of the things that we'll share in Slack are book clubs. So if you guys have ever been to my house, and my nightstand has like 4 stacks of books, I'm very ambitious, but I became very overwhelmed in trying to read all of this content and material. So I blocked it off into 12 books a month. And I also have an Amazon list that I'll share as well, because what was happening was I was buying these books and I wasn't reading them, and they're sitting on my nightstand, and then it turned into this whole big thing. So now I have an Amazon list. Oh, and my husband said if I bring another book home, I was going to be fired. So I have my 12 books, and those are the ones that I focus on for the year, but then I have my Amazon list as well. Then I also do one new skill a year. One of the key components for me that brings me joy is learning and doing and experiencing. This past year, our goal was to do ballroom dance lessons. My husband and I were dancing like we were still in the 8th grade when we would go to all of these formal events. So ballroom dance lessons was one of the projects that I wanted to learn. Well, dancing close to close in a partnership environment with COVID was a major no-no. So this will definitely be one that I'm adding to my list. But I've done everything from golf lessons. I actually love golf, and I didn't think that that was going to be a thing for me. I have taken different cooking classes, and I've learned different computer programs and things like that. So find something that's going to make your heart happy, but it's also a great opportunity for you to sink into and gravitate to a new skill. And then for my super ambitious type A personality friends out there, the other thing that I do is I also add in my financial goals. I set my doctor's appointments. Another good thing that I was not doing was doctor's appointments. You know, you need to go to the dentist twice a year. So, yep, making sure that they're on the month that you actually need to schedule, because all of a sudden it would be December and we're all trying to get into the doctor's appointments all at once. So go ahead and get those on your schedule as well. I also have goals that I do for my house. So things like just changing out the air filters. When was the last time that you guys did that? Or, you know, if you have a room that needs to be repainted or redone. This also helps me with my financial goals as well, because I know what I'm driving towards in order to make those things and those goals happen. And then let's not forget vacation. So I know you guys wait until the last minute to book vacation, or you don't book vacation, or you have all these days that are rolling over, whatever the case may be. Especially being in sales, it's hard to take off. Take those days and put them on your calendar right now. First of all, your management team will freaking love you, because then they can help plan around it. But at the same time, it's so that when you actually do take a vacation, you can take the vacation. You're not getting blown up by emails and text and people not knowing what's happening. And if it's on the calendar, then the other people on your team are able to plan accordingly. So do yourself a favor and alleviate the stress. If you already know that you're going to be planning to take off, go ahead and take that time off. Again, we will all love you. All right, so now I've taken out, I've added in a whole lot of things for myself personally. The next thing that I do is, if you're a manager or a leader of a team, and I'm focusing mainly on the salespeople, but this is just a separate sidebar section. But then something good for you guys to know, if you're managing any sort of team, is go ahead and schedule in your reviews. So with my company, we have quarterly reviews. Go ahead and get them on the calendar. If you have clients that require quarterly reviews, for any of their contracts or conversations, go ahead and get them on the calendar. There's nothing worse than realizing that you're at the end of the quarter and you've got a quarterly review that you haven't scheduled, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling to get all of the necessary paperwork together. We also have weekly and monthly check-in meetings with your team. So if you're managing a team or you're part of a team, having those weekly conversations already on the calendar, so that, again, you're not running around with your hair on fire. At least in my case, I've got a lot of it, so it would hurt. So just making sure that those are on the calendar. We've had a lot of fulfillment projects this week, and just like many of you, factories weren't shipping. All of this stuff is happening all at once. So being as prepared as possible has definitely enabled us to be successful during this really intense time. We also have, birthdays and anniversaries, team meetings. So anything like that that you guys do as a company or organization, go ahead and get those on the calendar so that everybody can plan around. And again, we all know that we live in a gray world. Just because it's on the calendar doesn't mean that it has to happen. Life is going to continue to move and change and morph, but at least then you've got it on the calendar and you can manage it accordingly. So then the next thing that I do after I've taken a look and I see all the things is I start planning the marketing plan. And so this is really important, especially moving into a new year. How we did business in 2019 is not how we're going to do business in 2021. And that's the reality. This is life, and we're all going to move, and we've got grown-up panties on, so we've got this. So a lot of that, what needs to be taken into consideration is your marketing plan has got to change. You already have a really good, strong taste of what the future is going to look like in a virtual world. So how are you going to adapt? What are your meetings going to look like? Are you going to continue to do Zoom? Is there another way for you to get in front of your clients? How does your e-blast look? Your e-blast list look? Is it caught up? Is it organized? Are you doing things by industry? How are you managing and handling any of the additional catch-ups and check-ins? In the pre-COVID world, this was where I really focused on our trade shows. So with our trade shows, we would put on the plan when we needed to order swag, what shows we were going to attend. Many of the shows have gone virtually. So it doesn't mean that you need to take this completely off your radar, but if they've gone virtually, then what are you doing to be proactive to get their swag and for that event in your clients and those attendees' hands? Have you signed up for the show? Have you reached out to show management? What are some of the products that you can do virtually? And is the show management team aware that this is something that you can provide? If you go ahead and have that on the calendar, A, you're going to alleviate some of the stress from the show team, and B, you're going to be in a great position for that as your win. Other things to consider if you are participating in a virtual show or a live show is, what is your pre-show and your post-show mailings going to look like? Are you doing a blast? Do they have a list? Each show is set up differently, and how they manage their list is really important. So whether they're sending it to you ahead of time or they send it to you after. Many times if they're sending it to you ahead of time, or if they don't send it to you ahead of time, you can search on the hashtags. So every show has its own hashtag. Take a moment and start searching now. You can find out people's names and create your own database to be reaching out or posting socially for those events ahead of time. And then the same for post-show, whether you're doing a follow-up blast, or if there's a theme to the show incorporating that, or any kind of mailings. Go ahead and have that planned out and on your calendar. And it's very simple. You know, if you take a look at what you've done previously in previous years, then search out those shows. And then if that doesn't work, if those shows aren't happening, then do another Google search and find out, you know, what is the industry that they're associated with, and search for shows from that side and that perspective. So then we're talking a little bit about our social calendars, and you may or may not have access or participate in the social marketing of your company, but this is a great opportunity for you to get your brand out there and share some of your product suggestions that you love. So what are some of the ways that you can reach out? What are some of the new channels? TikTok is very new to me. It's my child's thing. So I'm still trying to learn about that, but it's really big and corporate now. So do the research, leverage some of the social channels that are out there, and then plan your social media calendar accordingly. You know, one of the things that we start with just to help is take a look at the previous years and what we've done. Another option is every month has a thing, like the toe month and the foot month and the eye month and the nose month. So how can you leverage those months to make an impact on your social media campaign? And then what are the products that are associated that you can leverage and sell in some of those campaigns? And then tie that into your e-blast and then your multi-tiered strategy. You can take the same content and reuse it multiple times. And if you have it planned out on your calendar month to month on what your theme and your target is going to be, it's a lot easier to run and manage, but then it also helps with the conversations that you're having with your clients. So whether it's an e-blast and then you're doing a follow-up campaign, or you're creating a presentation or a shop or whatever that looks like for you. But really leverage this and plan this out. Otherwise, it turns into complete chaos and you're scrambling to find content based off of, you know, what happened to you yesterday that may or may not be appropriate. The other thing to think about and consider is when COVID happened, we have an in-house creative team, and I wanted to keep our creative team busy even through all of this. So one of the things that I found very useful this year was we did go ahead and plan during our slow period between March and June, our entire rest of the year. We had all the layouts created, we had all the social created. The only thing that we didn't add in was the product. But guys, in doing this, this really enabled us to, as product fit, find the right product. We weren't scrambling to send out content, and we had everything that we needed lined up. So it looked professional and put together, and we had a story to tell. And we had the time to think it through, which was definitely key and vital during this crazy time. And then something else to think about and consider as you're planning out some of your social media and your marketing strategy is just making sure that what you have is real and is going to make that impact. And looking at some of the metrics that you're wanting to track and tracking those throughout this process. Some of the content that we used, obviously, we weren't able to use. There was a couple of things where we realized that we had duplicated, or it just wasn't an appropriate time to send out certain messages. So again, plan it to the best you can, but be flexible in your approach. I don't want you guys saying, well, Sarah told me to put this on the calendar, I put this on the calendar, and then I sent this out. That's not the intent. But again, continue to be flexible and be mindful of what's happening in the world and the environment. Then the last thing that I do then is I take a look at all of my marketing materials. What is going out there? This year, the second part of this year, we incorporated a new color and some new branding for a lot of our collateral, just to give it a new, fresh look. Take a look at what you're sending out there. Again, it may be more of a decision on the corporate front, but even you as a salesperson, as you're sending out presentations, are they professional? Is all of your copy correct? I can't tell you how many times that I've received something from salespeople and, from our vendors or from partners where my emails are misspelled, or the grammar is incorrect, or the spell check wasn't done. So as you're going through some of your brochures, your presentations, your website, your social media campaigns, be diligent in taking a second look through what is that client experience. If they're seeing something for the first time, whether they're a prospect or an existing client, does it need a refresh? Does it even make sense? And is it relevant? And then what are the steps that you can go ahead to change to clean out moving forward? All right. So we've talked about all the things so far. We've talked about personal, we've talked about corporate, we've talked about our marketing strategy and our marketing plan. You have all of these things on your calendar. Now it's time for you guys to sell, right? So one of the tricks that I've found out early on, and just to give you a little bit of feedback on my experience, I started in this industry as a marketing assistant, and then over a number of years became a commissioned account executive. So I'm sitting in the same place, in the same position that you guys have been, and I know what has worked for me. So I'm hoping that some of these tips and tricks are going to work for you and taking you to the next level. But the other thing is that there's so much more copy and content that I'm excited to share. And as we continue to communicate as a team through Slack and build each other up, this is really where we're going to get into a lot of the juice of what's happening. One of the tips that I learned long ago was if you take a list of your top 10 prospects and your top 10 clients, so just create a column for yourself and put this on a piece of paper. I know it's counterintuitive. Everybody wants everything online, but if it's in Evernote, you're not going to remember it. Having something visually in front of you reinforces it day by day. And you guys, that's the industry we're in, visual marketing. Come on. So you're going to have it written down. Take this with you to every meeting. So every vendor meeting. So whether it's online or it's just sitting on your desk, having that list in front of you. So when a vendor comes in or a partner comes in and they say, hey, I've got this new water bottle, glance at your prospect list. That's the perfect opportunity. And while you're in that meeting, go ahead and order the samples. Go ahead and request the spec. Go ahead and request the image and the design. Having that right there in front of you will enable you to continue to keep it fresh and your clients at the place where they need to be, which is top of mind. The next thing that I want you guys to do is to take a look at your 2019 and your 2020 sales. So this is a little bit of a duplication of efforts, only because 2020 was such a weird year, unless you're very comfortable with where your sales were in 2020. But I like to do 3 years in comparison anyway. For myself, it makes me happy. I like numbers. I'm a numbers kind of girl. But take a look and run the comparison. And then from there, I want you to compare your clients and label them gold, silver, and bronze. Now you guys can have different naming mechanisms for them. I like metals, so I like platinum. So that's why I name all of my things, the things that I like them to be. My platinum clients, these are the clients that you are going to touch more frequently than your gold, your silver, and your bronze. So the first place that I want you to look so that you don't get completely overwhelmed is when you have these in the different categories from the platinum clients, those are going to be where your top 10 come from. And then you can have your prospects on the second column. But for purposes of this conversation, we're just really going to focus on our platinum clients. You do need a healthy mix of all. And if anything that 2020 has taught us is diversify, diversify, diversify. Lots of industries, lots of client sizes, lots of different types of clients. So when you have your top 10, I want you to go ahead and on your calendar, schedule in 5 check-ins per week between your prospects and your clients. 5. That's it. You guys can handle 5. It's no big deal. It's just 5. So when you have those written down, you're going to have a rotation of them. So you're just going to alternate week after week. The questions that I get from this are, is it too much? I don't want to bother them. Wah, wah. No, it's not too much, because the types of communication that you're going to be providing are going to be different on a monthly basis. Now, I'm not saying email the same person every single month, the same thing every single month. That's not what we're talking about. But what we are saying is send them an email one month, and then the next month send them a spec. The next month you saw another client that did a presentation that was in a similar industry, so you send them a presentation. It's not salesy, it's account management, it's account maintenance. So doing these rotation of things, they're going to think that you're freaking amazing and you're staying on top of all of it, but you're also going to be staying in front of them. So when the opportunity presents itself, you're going to be the first person that they think about. And then make sure that you're, one of the other things that I didn't touch on too is when you're having these conversations, take a look at your previous year's sales, the 2019 and the 2020, and find what months they ordered what product. So if they're a platinum client, they should be ordering a semi-regular basis. Those are the opportunities where you're checking in and saying, hey, it was around this time last year that you placed an order for this item, and I wanted just to check in and see if this was something of interest. By doing this every single month, you're going to watch and see how each of your accounts continue to expand and grow exponentially. And this is a promise, and I can't wait to watch all of this happen. So we've talked about clients, we've talked about marketing, we've talked about personal, we've talked about corporate. Now it's time for you guys to really take a deeper dive on some of the things. So the first thing is to go ahead and set your sales goal for 2021. And this is your big, hairy, audacious, ridiculous goal that everybody is like, meh. So when you take that goal, divide it out monthly and determine what your month-to-month hits should be to meet your goals. So for example, if you are if you're wanting to hit $1 million, and I have to have my calculator here because it's Tuesday and it's higher math. If I divide it by 12, I need to do about $83,000 per month in monthly sales. So whatever that looks like, divide that out and figure out what that goal is and have that written down in a spreadsheet. From there, I take a look at my previous year's sales and determine what I did in what month based off of my client mix and my client base. The next thing that I do is I take a look at my clients that have fallen off over the last couple of years, and everyone has a chunk of these. So either the clients have left, so then it's time for you to do some research on LinkedIn, or they have decided to work with someone else. Well, now's your opportunity to put them back on your prospect list. And these are one of the top 10 that you're going to start rotating in with your top 5 every single week. And by taking a look at that, you're able to incorporate additional sales on top of your pre-existing sales already. And then finally, what I encourage you to do is go ahead and set your industry presentations. So this is something that you're going to look at your trade shows. What are like your favorite top 5 or your favorite top 10 trade show ideas? What are your favorite pens? Create these collections so that as you have clients that are requesting this information, these presentations are already set and you don't have to think about it. It's an automatic response because, as you know, this industry is so fast. The quicker that you're able to respond with a solution, the quicker that you're going to close the deal. So that's vitally important to have these in your back pocket. So for us, we have trade show, desk accessories, pens. We work with the airline industry, so we have travel ideas, So whatever your special niches are, go ahead and create those presentations so that they're at the ready for as you need them. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about as we start wrapping up is, now that you had your calendar created, you've got all of these great plans, what's next? Well, if you have followed the steps previously and created your plan and your marketing and your sales goals for every single month, I want you to take a look at your orders. Now, margins play an impact on everything that we do. And, one of the opportunities that we all know is leaving money on the table. I understand that it's a competitive market, but if you increase your previous year's margin and you're $1 million salesperson, then you've just increased your total revenue by $30,000. So the simple changes that you've done, you've already increased just by maintaining your existing client base. So take a look at what your orders were from the previous year. And now is a great time to increase margins, even if it's 1%, 2%, 3%. Because A, it's a new year. B, you have all these excuses. This is when you get to actually use excuses to your advantage. There's, shipping excuses and factory excuses and COVID. I mean, even the last time I had dinner, I had a COVID charge on my bill. I don't know why, because I was sitting down at a restaurant, but there's an opportunity where people aren't going to be as in shock. So really leverage some of your margins and take a look at where you can. Obviously, if you have contractual margins, I don't want to go against anything that's already been pre-established, but just do some of these incremental changes. I think one of the things that happens to us as salespeople is that we get used to the 40% or 30%, and we have that number in our head, but 33% is good. 40, 43, 37, anything like that. So don't be afraid to kind of mess and tweak with that based off of what your skill set, and you'll watch incrementally as your sales increase. So as I had shared previously, what we do is we take a look at your top clients and your prospects. You've already had those divided out. But then as you create them, what I do is I have a month-to-month spreadsheet of how I've touched base with them. If you guys don't write it down, you're not going to remember. And CRMs are great, but having that one location visual reminder is really where you're going to see the impact. So for example, if I have Burt's Bees lotion on my desk. So if my clients was Burt's Bees, I would have January, February, March, April, May, all the way through the month. And then for every month, I would have my plan for what I'm going to touch base with them. Email, spec, presentation, and I would just rotate that out. It doesn't mean that because, again, it's written out that this is the path that you have to take, but knowing what you're going to be presenting and how you're going to be touching base with them is really imperative to make sure that you actually do the things. And then from there, we also create a detailed social media calendar. So again, this is where we talked about just marking off the months on what we wanted them to look like, but creating what that plan is very important as well. So if you're on the social media side, I can share some of the resources and the tools that we use on our side in planning out our schedule. But this is something that will help you to stay on top and ahead of some of the things that are happening and make sure that you constantly have content and product that's at the ready. And then create your plan for your check-in and the method on how you're going to batch that out. So again, one of the tools that I know is available is Loom, where you can have video conferencing with your clients. And it's a video email, it's a video communication. So how are you going to be communicating with the team and showing them the different product? You've got multiple generations in each company within each client. Some people like the phone, some people don't like the phone. Some people are social media based and they see things through social media. Some people see things through video and email. So be prepared and make sure that you're hitting on all of those points as you're developing your plan and your opportunity to touch base with everyone, because this is really going to be key. And making sure that you're hitting your targeted clients 5 times per week per client, if that makes sense. Because if you're not, you're going to you're going to lose clients are going to drop off, and you're going to be at the end of the year not meeting and exceeding your goals. So that is a very quick and fast in my Southernese conversation and a quick overview. What we're hoping to do is leverage Slack to actually put these plans and conversation in writing and share it with the rest of the organization and brainstorm on some of the resources. So Jenny, I'm going to turn it over to you on how we can leverage and share different tools.